Hello and welcome to another edition of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets show for the Mayo Media Network. I'm joined again by Ryan Barroff and Sky's excellent. Right, how are you?
Doing well. Starting to miss Sky. He's been pretty unresponsive for the last 2 weeks, so it'll be good to have him back soon.
Yeah, we've had a couple of without talking to one another, had a couple of runner-up finishes in unison, following up with Max Griezmann again last week. So good to catch up with him and share the disappointment there. Normally you'd be sharing successes, but it's not been the case. I'm disappointed for him that he's not on here telling us how Guido Migliozzi is going to win the Olympics. I'm sure that's what he would be saying, so we can insert that probably towards the end there. Ryan, when you think about Olympic golf, has your opinion of it changed from 2016 to this year? Do you have any real firm opinions on it other than it just being another golf tournament?
Not really. I mean, I like this venue quite a bit. I feel like the fields have gotten stronger every time since 2016 in Rio. Not sure if that's accurate or not, but I remember, guys like Marcus Frazier were in that field, and I'm still salty that Thomas Peters didn't win, but but he was close. No, but I love this golf course. I like this field. I think, it's got a major field at the top, and then we have a lot of our favorites, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I think you talk about it getting stronger, and whether that feels the case, whether it definitely is. That the last two editions, the world number one skipped it. Like Jason Day skipped it in 2016, Dustin Johnson in 2020 or 2021 when it was actually played. And then Rory McIlroy obviously skipped it in 2016 as well. So, just having the three best, I think the top 7 players in the world this week. So to have all of those playing on the golf course is huge. I think the point you made about you liking the golf course is a huge factor. I think it's going to be a very golf course dependent thing as to whether people are that excited about it at the Olympics or not. I believe the one at Rio, wasn't that just created just for the Olympics? There wasn't really much history there.
There was nothing there. Yeah.
So, it's definitely going to depend on where they're playing it. I don't even know where the next Olympics is, so I couldn't tell you where the next golf course is meant to be.
Here, Riviera. Yeah, it's in Los Angeles.
Is it Riviera? There you go. So that's what I was thinking it might be LA. So I guess that would be a good venue as well. I think it's all just going to depend on who's in the field, right? And the people are going to love it, whether their bet's coming or not. And that's where we're going to try and come in, I guess. First off the bat, is it hard to look past the top 3 in the world?
I mean, always is. They're always there. Especially Scotty and Xander. They're just, they're the most consistent, can play any style of golf at any time. But I think, again, it's a unique format. We've seen long shots get close before. Obviously, Xander won the last one, which, but I also think this is a golf course that can level the field. We've seen bombers do well here. We've seen accuracy guys do well here. We've seen links players do well here. I think you're going to see a couple names up there, that opened up in pretty deep this week.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you think back to Tokyo, you had Sabatini in second, Tsitsipas in third, and I think everyone sort of fondly remembers that and hopes they're going to get the next one right. And I think that can be a little bit of a dangerous game to get into, of trying to find that kind of 100 to 1 bigger sort of player. When you look back to 2016, it was Justin Rose, Henrik Stenson, and Matt Kuchar who would have been among the favourites. It definitely has. I guess there's probably at least 30 players in this that can't win. So if you start that kind of basis, that helps.
Wait, but and I know we're going to get there, but is this counting Sharma or no? He's done.
We'll talk about him later on. I think he might have just edged in. But I do think you're right in the sense, like, this is the type of golf course where you can still get a bit of not a freak result. I think there's still going to be a really competitive player, but maybe not the one that first springs to mind, right? So talking of the golf course, we've had this host the Open de France for a number of years. We've also had it host the Ryder Cup in 2018. Noren won it the year that it was hosted there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to play much differently to what we've seen in the past? So the first point on that is that everyone will talk about how much the rough was up in 2018 for the Ryder Cup. Then we've seen quotes for it not being that high this week, but then you've got to factor in the fact that we're playing in the middle of the summer as opposed to October time or late September. They've played the kind of more recent renewals of the event.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm no expert on the weather in Europe. I'm going to defer to you on that. But obviously, I do expect it to be warmer, firmer. I know, I believe they redid the greens, or at least how they were keeping the greens last year to make them firmer. And so I do expect that. I don't think the rough's going to be quite as bad, at least not right off the fairway like it was at the Ryder Cup. But if you get offline here, there is trouble. There are mounds. Obviously, there's a ton of water here. And so I still think it skews that way towards iron play and accuracy. Always a good test. So really excited to see it.
Yeah, I think the thing is that a lot of people are going to go, right, well, the rough's not going to be quite as high as it was for the Ryder Cup. We're not trying to eke out all the Americans, so maybe driving actually is not going to matter. It's still going to matter because one, you don't want to be playing from those kind of areas of the hole anyway, but two, there's just so much water, as you said, like getting into that kind of trouble. I think the winds, I imagine, will be fairly calm. I can't imagine they're going to get too high. Looking at the forecast at the moment, they do pick up later on in the afternoon, but the temperature is going to be hot. It's hot here this week in the UK, so I would expect it to firm up a little bit, and that I think only really helps those kind of shorter, accurate guys like a Colin Morikawa or maybe even a Corey Connors or someone like that who had the right skill set to begin with, and now has a little bit of boost of the ball rolling as well. So I do still think the same type of player is going to play well here. I don't think you're going to have to sort of change course too much. It's look for accuracy off the tee, play from the fairway, and look, if you do have to get up and down, it's tough, right? I mean, that's where people are going to separate themselves. So we're sort of, I guess we'll skip the top three in the market because neither of us are betting them.
Yeah.
I think we've landed on the same guy, if I remember your picks. So I believe Jon Rahm's going to win this event. A little bit of it is to do with gut feeling. I think just the fact that he's had that first kind of positive major finish of the year. Then he's gone and won on Live in the UK this past weekend. Do I think him winning on Live really changes too much? Not really, but I think it's more so how impressive he was at the Open from the bad side of the draw, right? And just feels not only that he's probably quite patriotic and wants to win it for Spain, but two, quite adamant to prove that he's not all about the money, despite evidence to the contrary. And also, I just think anytime he gets the opportunity now to kind of beat Scheffler, Schauffele, Rory, and prove that he's still a top 2-3 player in the world, is going to be really important to him.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think I agree that last week it didn't do much other than it cut his price by 4 points maybe. I'm kind of upset that I didn't bet him before that week, but I was heavily invested in him last week, so I feel like it all sort of works itself out. But I was just super encouraged by what we saw at Troon. Easily could have won or been up there for sure, if not for the bad start. He's played here twice, albeit a long time ago. Was 5th and 10th in both appearances. You mentioned the win last week. Just always seems to elevate his game when he plays in Europe for some reason. And I'm going to stick with that. So I took him 12-1 last night. I may try and juice that up a little bit, but I feel like that's a very fair price where only 20 guys can probably win in this field. So
yeah, for sure. And I think thinking back to the Ryder Cup, that was obviously a positive week for him. He did only get the 1 point, but it was obviously an all-important point.
Big point,
in the singles, right? And look, I don't know if he was probably a little bit unfortunate to be carrying around Poulter and Rose that week as well. So I really like what Rahm's been doing. I do also like the fact that he's been in Europe for like the last month or so now. Like he's been in Spain for Valderrama, he's then been in Scotland for the Open, and the UK last week. I think that's helpful. Did you consider anything like the teammates, whether they've played in the Olympics in the past, anything like that in your sort of selections?
No.
Interesting, because I felt at the very least like having played in the Olympics before might be quite important, especially for people that wouldn't have had so much. If you've got a guy that's played multiple majors and they just haven't played the Olympics yet, then absolutely fine. But like if it's a player that is fairly middle of the road or isn't necessarily a big time player, I feel like you can get overruled a bit by the kind of Olympic village and what it can mean for winning for your country. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it helps. I would say one way, or I didn't focus specifically on that. I mean, obviously, my card is full of good players who have played in Ryder Cups and Presidents Cups and majors and World Golf Championships. So it kind of works itself out. Like, but not specifically the Olympics. No.
Yeah, and then the other thing was like I just wonder whether like the dynamic of if there's a 2-man team or whatever was potentially important, because you've got kind of Rory McIlroy. You couldn't pick a better partner for him than Shane Lowry. I know it's obviously not team golf, but just practicing with each other all week. Whereas, like, I don't know if Fitz and Fleetwood really talk that much. I mean, I don't think Fitz really talks to anyone that much. I think he's fairly lone soldier, right? So, and then I just like the dynamic of Rahm maybe just being like a mentor for Puig as opposed to sort of like a competitor where he would be with someone like a Garcia or something like that. So, I don't know. It could mean nothing, but I used it as kind of a boost for that. If I wasn't picking Rahm, I think everything kind of aligns for Morikawa. I just think that, one, he's the perfect course fit. We know that without even really going too much into detail about it. But two, doesn't it feel very similar to Xander in 2021, who had been playing really good golf, had a couple of runner-up finishes or top 5 finishes in majors without anything really coming of his season, and then he had the sort of win here that sort of gave everyone the, oh, can he now go on and win a major, or can he win big tournaments, etc. And I don't know if I buy into the Olympics having any impact on what I think about Colin Morikawa as a golfer, but how he frames his season may only really hinge on this 1 week now.
I agree. I mean, there's nothing you could say bad about him this year other than he hasn't won. And when you look at the numbers, I'm not sure why he hasn't won. Other than Scotty Scheffler and Xander win every week. Like, he's been awesome across the board. He still hits every fairway. The iron play has definitely come back, right? He wasn't that sharp early on in the year. That has turned around. A little worse in the short game, but still better than it's ever been. He's gaining strokes putting every week, it seems like. So, yeah, you couldn't find a better spot for him. But, you know, at the price, I would rather have Rahm on my card.
Yeah, I was the same. Like, I just felt more strongly about Rahm. But I just think that, like, of this top group, I think Morikawa is the one that probably means the most for. Just in the frame.
He'd be a staple if you know, anybody does, you know, these top 20 type parlays where you grab 5 guys, like that. He's probably the first guy. You know, you throw Xander in there, you throw Morikawa in there, and you're pretty much set. So
yeah, for sure. Second pick for you, who I was really close to, Joaquin Niemann, Ryan. Like, give us the reasoning on that.
Yeah, I mean, very similar. I do think this is a good course for him. Played really well at the Open, despite the bad Sunday and making 2 quintuple bogeys, I believe. Had an 8 and 9 on the card. So, I mean, you take those away and he's borderline top 5, you know, and I know you can't just take them away, but even if you turn them into a double, right, he's easily inside the top 20.
Yeah.
I like what you said about, you know, he's also been over here for a month now. And I think people don't realize that he finished second last week. They talked about Rahm, talked about Hatton, talked about Cam Smith. Well, he was also T2 last week, has won on LIV this year, has as many worldwide wins as anybody basically in this field, not named Scotty and Xander. So I just think I got a 30-1 last night, which just felt like a lot. I don't think he should be more than probably 22 to 25 in this field.
Finished 10th in the Olympics in 2021 as well, which I think, considering his age now, he's still, what, I guess like 25, right? Like, I think to go and do that as such a young player back then, not a sole representative, obviously he's playing with Mito, but like, I just felt like that, how much he impressed in the world stage at that point was really good. And I know the knock on him has been how he's performed in majors, but the evidence in this so far is that he's been good. I guess the one challenge that people are going to say is it a good course fit? Like, when you see sort of Niemann being this guy that, generally speaking, can hit it quite a long way and can unleash a driver. But when you think about somewhere like you just talked about a future Olympic venue in Riviera, and somewhere where you do get sort of rewarded for keeping it straight off the tee, like, he can do it when he needs to.
Yeah, I just think he's got the ball striking to play anywhere, right? He's won at Riv. I know it was a LIV event, but he won at Mayakoba, right? Did he win Greenbrier back in the day, or am I confusing him with somebody else? Could be confusing him with someone else. Anyways, he won in Jeddah, right? He won the Aussie Open, right? Which is obviously more wide open link style golf. So he's just a really good player. And I think, anything near 30-1 was kind of an auto bet for me for Neiman this week.
Yeah, he won the Greenbrier as well back in 2019.
There you go. I was like, I feel like that happened, but I can't confirm it.
And when you look at the people he's beaten as well, Tom Hoagie at the Greenbrier, accurate golfer, Colin Morikawa, Riviera, who we just talked about, Adlib as well. So, it makes a lot of sense. I do really like Neiman. I like what he's been doing this year. And again, another player that's probably not been rewarded for a really hot season. The next player that you've got up, and the next player for me, it just aligns so perfectly for this golfer. A player that's been good all season long, has probably been circling this for months. Alex Noren has a win and 4 more top 20s at this golf course, including an 8th and a 10th.
Yes.
He's into this event off the back of a 10th at the Scottish Open, 13th for the Open Championship.
Mm-hmm.
He's been accurate off the tee in his last 2 events, which is something that can hold him back at times. He is probably one of, if not the most reliable operator on this golf course in the field. I know you've obviously got, Rahm and Rory having really good success in 2 starts. You've got Tom Kim coming in finishing 6th, but over a long sustained period of time, there's not many more consistent than him. I just think everything aligns perfectly and the only reason I'd be worried about him not playing well is the fact that everything aligns perfectly for him. It doesn't seem to work out that way.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but he owes me a little bit for my loyalty here. I've been on him a lot this year, obviously, a couple each ways, and he's come really close. Like, I kind of made the decision early in the year that I was going to hammer him this summer, Scottish Open, Open Championship, and the Olympics. So I had a big futures on him at Troon. And as soon as these lines came out, there was a 50 out there. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. Yeah, perfect golf course for him. Another player who clearly elevates his game when he plays this style of golf in Europe. I don't know if I'm just sort of making it up, but there has to be some Wentworth comps here. Like, there's obviously link comps, but has to be some Wentworth ties here just with him and Fleetwood and those sorts of players. So yeah, it just suits him perfectly.
I think that Wentworth link is potentially one, it's just, a premium on just hitting the ball really well throughout the whole week and scrambling well, but also just you've got to look at these players and were they consistent here in the best of the best fields where they compete in, Noren is one of the best regular DP World Tour players, right? Probably inside the top 10 or 15, I guess, that played there regularly. And did he elevate his game every time he came to a tough golf course? So this pretty much every time, yes. So I think that's absolutely the case. I just worry that I'm so invested in him that something goes wrong, but he's the perfect fit for this golf course.
Yeah, and well, good, because I use that comp with my next 2 picks as well. So,
and again, like another thing where so this was the other, and again, this could be just me galaxy braining everything. When I talked about the pairings and you said you didn't really think about them and it wasn't really a factor to you, I was talking about Louis Gobert earlier and is he just naive to the fact of how big this event is on a sort of global scale and he might just go and sort of win it without really realising what he's done for his country? Whereas Noren is absolutely going to be dead set on winning the Olympics for Sweden, big event for him, probably the biggest win of his career, right? Does them having such bipolar opposite views of how the event unfolds for them have any impact? I don't know. It's just little sort of talking points in my head, I guess.
Look, I mean, yes. And I do think there are certain guys it would mean more to, not just an Olympic medal, but I think, he's older. He went through a lot, he kind of fell off. He's fought his way back to, he's arguably a top 25 player in the world right now. Yeah. Yes, I think it would mean a lot to him for sure.
We just had the narrative last time of the military service, South Korean subplots, right? And then obviously the Hideki in Japan and things like that. I just think of players just sort of crowning their careers. It meant so much to Justin Rose in 2016, despite the fact he'd already won a major in his career. He still was quite active in majors at that point. I just feel like Noren hits that. Interestingly, it's one of your favourites, not on the card this week, but I feel like Tommy Fleetwood is the perfect blend of Justin Rose and Xander Schauffele, the past 2 winners of Xander hadn't won that major, which is where Tommy Fleetwood is, hadn't really proven himself as a sort of excellent winner, and Fleetwood kind of gets asked about. And then you've got Rose, who, yes, he'd got the major win, but he was kind of trying to crown off his career, and it meant a lot to him. It feels to me they're the perfect, if you merged Rose and Xander's views together, of what people thought about him, you get Tommy Fleetwood. So I find that an interesting subplot.
Yeah. Look, I mean, he's another guy who's not much bad to say about Tommy Fleetwood. Obviously, has very good vibes at this golf course as an individual and as a team member. Played well at Wentworth also. I was very disappointed, not just in the Open, but the Scottish Open as well with those finishes. So I just feel like as good as he's been and as consistent as he's been this year, the high-end finishes really haven't been there. No, he finished third at the Masters, but I don't even think that happened,
I think he's burnt out a bit. I think he's coming to the end of that and the Sparks run. But I just think in terms of importance for people like him and maybe Shane Lowry winning a gold medal versus I don't know, some of the guys.
All of his wins seem to come in that sleepy winter season. Since he won this event back in 2017, he won the NetBank twice, and he won in Dubai. So,
yeah. Interestingly as well, most volatile form here ever. He's got 5 missed cuts and then 1 win.
Yes, very strange.
Yeah. I think the one thing I would say is the first 3 starts he had here wasn't really Tommy Fleetwood. He was very early on in his career, so too worried on that. Before we get into some of the longer shots, let's just give a shout out to our audio listeners. So you can listen to the show on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, all those different places, Amazon, all the places you get your podcast. You can listen to us on audio format. So we appreciate everyone that tunes in every week, whether you watch us on YouTube or listen to us on your podcasting devices. Ryan, getting into some of the bigger price golfers now. One player, you seem to have, what you've done is you've kind of picked a couple of players that have fallen off of my shortlist. So Wacky Neiman was one of them. Sepp Straka was really close for me.
Yeah. I think he's another guy, right? He's just been so underratedly good for 2 years now, right? Not just 1 year, for 2 years. He got the win last year at the John Deere, and he probably should have won more than that, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Definitely should have won this year. He has a bunch of top 10, top 5 finishes. I think, again, it's a perfect golf course for a ball striker like that. Very underrated driver. He doesn't hit it that far, even though he's an absolute unit, but he hits every fairway. Really good iron player. When he came over for the Ryder Cup last year, he finished top 10 at Wentworth. I just think, again, I got him at 65. It's I think that one's a win only, but he's got the upside, and I think that price is just entirely too big for him.
Yeah, in terms of just accurate drivers, I mean, what is he probably 4th on tour over the last few months in terms of driving accuracy? I think probably Colin Morikawa's potentially ahead of him. Aaron Rye, Ben Coles is another one, but in terms of players in this field, it's literally Morikawa is the only one that's more accurate, and then you've got the likes of Fleetwood and the below him. But yeah, I think he's a perfect fit. The only thing I would say, and it probably points to your point of I think generally speaking he's underrated, but in my own head I've probably raised him much higher than what he's probably output this season in terms of he's had those top 5 finishes, but it didn't ever feel like he was gonna win one. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like he's not quite delivered what probably I've gone too far on him after how well he was in 2023 in the Open finish. I mean, as you said, he had a chance to be a 3-time winner in 2022, and no one really talks about it. He lost 2 playoffs in 2022.
Yeah, and I think, again, the loss in Memphis to Zalatoris when he rinsed that wedge or 9-iron, I thought that was going to stick with him for a while, but it didn't. Yeah. It kind of spurred him on, and he's now had the best 24 months of his career. So,
yeah, no, I completely get the pick. It was one that was very close for me. You're next up again, Ryan. Benny Ann is now he's 60 to 1 now. So obviously you got him at 80 to 1. Yes. Would you still play him at 60? This is probably the golden
with places, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with places, yes. I think I don't want to harp on it, but he owes us. He owes me for the loyalty. Yeah. How has the win not come this year? 4th, 2nd, 8th, 4th, 3rd. Not a guy who I would really back on links courses, but played awesome at the Open. Finished tied for 13th. Was one of the best over the weekend. Gained strokes in all 4 categories. Obviously won at Wentworth. So again, a long time ago, but if you want to use that comp, I do like that. He finished 20th here in his only appearance, again, a decade ago. So who cares? And I think, again, with the Olympic motivation, it might mean a little more to him. Both of his parents were Olympians. I did read somewhere that he is already exempt from military service. I don't know how or why that happened, but
Yeah, that was
he is apparently.
Because I assumed he was for some reason, but I don't know why I thought that, because he hasn't.
Well, because so those other guys played the Asian games and they were exempt from that. Cage Lee and Sung Jae and Siwoo Kim, and I assumed that maybe he had, but apparently it was something completely unrelated. But anyways, I thought that was a motivation factor, but he is exempt from military service.
So, but I think he did say that like it would be as big as a major win for him. Like he's obviously really keen on the Olympics. So I know everyone's going to kind of.
He wants to win anything. He does not care what it is.
No, I'm sure everyone says the same thing. But the one thing I would say about Benny An, like I'd kind of given up on him going into the Open. Like I felt like he just fizzled out, and then that performance that week in really tough conditions, it was huge. And we know he's a great driver of the golf ball. He can be really straight at times, as well as being one of the longer players. So he's got the skill set. For me, in this range, Carlos Ortiz is 90-1. He was actually 110-1 when I started writing my column up, so I'm not bitter at all that he's 20 points since. But I just think this is a player that, because he's sort of out of sight, out of mind, we're sort of quick to forget about. I mean, I haven't really talked about Carlos Ortiz, so I'm in that kind of bandwagon, right? But this year he has already won twice, once in the International Series in Oman, once in Houston on Live. He's got another 2 top 10s, 4th in Hong Kong, 10th again on the International Series. He's been fine since his win, 9th in Nashville, 4th at 14th at Valderrama, 29th last week in the UK. Is not great, but it's fine. This is a player, you get exemptions, obviously, for majors. If you win here, there's huge motivation for, I guess, at least the Live guys in that respect, because then playing them, Neiman would obviously be another one that fits into that category. I don't think, and this goes back to whether you cared about kind of like the Olympics past or not, I don't think people really remember the fact that he was inside the medal places for the first 3 rounds in Tokyo. He was 3rd after round 1, 2nd after round 2, and 3rd going into Sunday. And look, he shot a 78 and finished 42nd. That's what the final standings will tell you. But I think that just kind of goes to show the importance he put on it. He obviously felt like really strongly about trying to win the event. Probably the nerves got better of him trying to represent his country. I think if he finds himself in that situation again, which he can do based on the way that he's playing, and the sort of extra ball speed he's picked up off the tee, the accuracy that seems to have come with it as well, which is a weird correlation, Carlos Ortiz can make a real impact this week.
Yeah. He's a player who does not owe me, because I hit him in Houston. He has played really well this year. I like that he's been traveling all over the world playing those international series events in Asia. Clearly has added some distance. Again, I don't know how much you want to read into those Live stats and whatnot. But like my biggest issue with Ortiz, and it's always been this way, is like I don't know what he does well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he drives it pretty well. When he won, it was iron play and putting. I just don't know that he has the firepower in a field like this. But I guess that's why he's 90-1.
Yeah, like I think that's just why I'm willing to find out. Like we talk about how good of Neiman's have been on the Live Tour, and he's obviously gone and won twice this season, once on Live, once in the International Series. Like pretty quietly going about his business. There's gonna be a lot of fanfare about Abraham Answer being a bit of a course fit and a higher profile player. And I just think he can kind of swoop in under the radar in good form. And like you say, I'm not when I write kind of like my sort of reasons behind him, I sit there and think, am I identifying him as this really straight driver of the golf ball? Am I picking up how good he is at scrambling? I don't really know. I think it just all comes together in some way, shape, or form. A little bit like someone like a Mackenzie Hughes, I think. They can just game it around.
I think you have to. Yeah, I think I would definitely put him in that tier. Like you look at like Hughes, you look at a guy like Thomas Dietrich.
Yeah,
I think he's probably better than Abe Answer at this point, just with how they played this year. But he's in that group. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're just going to need a player like that. Like it's felt like a gut feel. Like if I'm going to find someone that's surprising, like a Sabatini or a CT Pan, I want to find someone that's actually playing good golf, and he happens to be one of them. So into that, both of the Italians caught my attention, which would be no surprise, Ryan. You haven't bet either of them in Guido Migliozzi or Matteo Manacero. Were you close?
I will have a top 20 on Guido. only because obviously he's won here, but we've seen him do stuff in really strong fields, right? Yeah. And again, he is one of our most profitable golfers. I don't know about Matteo. Like, played really well at the Open. I'll give him that. He doesn't seem to have great course history here, although it was a long time ago. And I just think I would rather take more pedigreed guys in that range. Like, I'll talk DraftKings for a second, but he's in there with like Ryan Fox and Victor Perez. Like, I would rather go that direction than a Mancero this week.
It's interesting on Guido. Like, in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, like, did he win in France in spite of his profile? Like, to me, he doesn't strike me as this kind of like gut it out, accurate driver player. Although when you look back at his wins, in Kenya and things like that, it makes perfect sense that he can perform on an accurate golf course. And actually, over the past 3 months, he's been third in total accuracy on the DP.
He's been striping it. Yeah. He's been striping it.
14th in driving accuracy, 9th in greens regulation. It's interesting you said about, but he's just so volatile at this golf course, which is the thing that slowly concerned me. He's like miscut on debut, win, and then 47th and defending champion. Like, I know it's hard to defend at any point, but just a weird,
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It was one round, right? He shot a Sunday 62. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't lean on the course history when it's like one round like that skews it too much.
It's interesting when you say about Mancero. Like, the first 5 years that he played here, when he was the player that he is at the moment, he was fine. Like 26th, 30th, 17th, 25th, 48th, and then he's missed 4 cuts since. So I think the first 4 years are easier to go by. So if I was looking for a top 20 player, I would like him just from the accuracy standpoint of how he's playing. But yeah, I couldn't get there for an outright just yet on either of those. We sort of buried the lead earlier on our biggest long shot. So talk about a couple of other players before we get there. So the home contingent is Matthew Pavon and Victor Perez. Yeah. Interest in either of those two?
Not in Pavon, I don't think. I would definitely prefer Perez. Again, course history scares me a little bit. But I like a guy who can hit it long and make putts. And we've lost to him when he made 1,000 feet of putts. So, he can do it. But yeah, they would not be my favorite. I mentioned Ryan Fox. Like, I think that's a guy. I mean, I'm really sticking with the Wentworth Link style players here, and I think his form has been also underratedly good this year. I think he makes a lot of sense for a DK play, especially.
Interestingly enough, there is only maybe a handful of players, maybe 4 or 5, that have played in both Olympics that are in this field. Fabrizio Zanotti, Gavin Green, Ryan Fox, and that's I think that's it. CT Pan has played in both as well. Obviously, that's owed a lot to the players that are coming out of their countries, right? But again, just think it's great experience to have that 2 occasions now. Ryan Fox, we know, is very sort of patriotic and things like that. So would be interested to see how he plays. One other player that I quite like the look of, who I think is rounding into form, is Emiliano Grillo, who's 200 to 1. Don't know if it's the perfect golf course for him. He's shown he's had some struggles here in the past. He was 23rd on debut and had 3 missed cuts, but a long time ago now. I just think with what he's shown in recent weeks, suggests that he is capable of coming here and having a good week. He was 8th in this event back in 2016 in Rio, obviously a bit closer to home. But any thoughts on Grillo at all?
I looked at him for sure. I don't love the Scotland to Minnesota back to Paris the last 3 weeks. I think that's a lot, but yeah, I mean, you're talking about course fit. Like, yes, that's exactly kind of the type of player I'd be looking for. One name that I was looking at in that same range, who has kind of gone down the shitter, but he could be a sort of a global version of Grillo, is Nakajima. So obviously was terrible at the Scottish and at the Open, but was one of the best players in Europe for the rest of the year. Granted, more target golf, Parkland types, but this is a course where he doesn't need to hit a lot of drivers. If he just hits the fairway, like, his iron game can be as hot as anybody. Like, I feel like that's a good name and a dark horse for like a top 10, top 20 week. And I mean, nobody's going to mention his name because they've seen him just eject the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the names I've seen mentioned around here are the one we're going to talk about. Daniel Hillier is 400 to 1. There's been some sort of references to him.
Yep.
I would much rather play Nakajima over Hillier. Like,
I've got one more too, past Sharma. I'm sure you can look at it and figure out exactly who it is, just because I like to bet other tours.
Is it Ventura?
It's Ventura, yeah. And again, I don't think this is a good course fit because he's definitely more of a bomber, but like he's got the pedigree. Like this guy won multiple times in a year, 2019 on the Corn Ferry Tour. I think he has 3 wins overall there. Really good college player from that OK State pipeline. Has been really good this year. Like he has some missed cuts in there, but just a lot of upside. He had one playoff loss. He had a couple top 10s, bunch of top 20s in a row now. I was going to bet him this week until I remembered he was actually in Paris. So he is dirt cheap. You know, you talk about a top 10, top 20 guy. He's obviously very close with Hovland. I believe they live together. Hovland is renting a room from him in Florida, if I read correctly. So might be some good vibes there for Ventura as well.
Well, but that's one of what we talked about pairings earlier. Like that has got to be one that does give upside to both. Like Hovland's certainly been lost this season. There's no doubting that. Having his best friend around him is only going to help. Ventura in good form. We're keen to show what he is and isn't. I remember I had him on the podcast during sort of COVID times, very bullish about his game. Obviously not come to fruition yet, but like as you said, he's probably more of that streaky driver, putter player that is hard to sort of get right any week on maybe this higher level, but certainly seems to have found himself on the Corn Ferry this year. So
I mean, last week he had a Friday 63 and a Sunday 64. So I like those signs. Yes. I like those signs. Yeah.
I thought Matty Schmid had shown a little bit with his driver recently. I like the good signs there. 270 to 1 could appeal. But the one that we're dancing around here, Shubhankar Sharma, is a player who is in really good form. Most notably, obviously, top 20 at the Open Championship. He was inside the top 15 going into the final round. Led the field in approach, I believe, at the Scottish Open. Was 5th at the Italian Open, where he was the 54-hole leader. Sharma's just playing some really good golf. He's played here 3 times in the past already. They haven't been that successful, but 27th and 40th, I think, is solid enough around your first 2 goes around here, and anyone can be forgiven a miscut depending on what sort of form you were coming into it. The way he's striking the ball, Ryan, is really encouraging, and the price that he is obviously huge.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Sharma, obviously not long, which you don't need here. Always hits plenty of fairways. And right now he is spiking in irons and putting. That's exactly what you want to see. A guy who is going to stay out of the water off the tee and hit really good approach shots and make some putts. And got him at 400 to 1. I would sort of ladder him from there, top 40, 30, 20, go as far as you want to go. I don't necessarily think he can actually win this thing. But I mean, then again, we saw Pan and Sabatini win medals in Tokyo. So who the hell knows?
He's like that perfect thing, right? Like I think he's that if he finishes second or third, you go, okay, well, he was inside the top 20 at the Open Championship. His ball striking was great at the Scottish, and it's a golf course he's played before. Like at the end of it, it would all make perfect sense, and that's one of the sort of guys you're looking for.
He's definitely not a prolific winner. Let's not get that out there. He is not. I don't even know if he's won anything of note, but
he's won a couple of times on the DP World Tour. So he won in Malaysia. I'm trying to think of where the other one was. I don't know if it was actually in India.
That was that was way pre-COVID, right? Because that would have been how he got into the World Golf Championships and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's encouraged me. Is like throughout his career, he's managed to spike in that WGC of Mexico in 2019, I think it was, and then again at the Open Championship last year. Yes, he won the Joburg in South Africa against Van Rooyen, and then the Maybank Malaysian Open in 2018 against Jorge Campillo. So he's got some good DP World Tour wins, right? And look, there is a decent kind of pipeline of Indian golfers, but they still want to put themselves on a global stage. Yeah, Jeev Mikkel Singh do it, Arjun Atwal on the PGA Tour for a long time. Lahiri is obviously someone we see quite a lot of, especially when he's sort of contending on live. I think Sharma can pick up that mantle. He's an exciting talent. He's got plenty to give. Still only 28, Ryan. Like it's quite a surprise that he's still sub 30, really.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like those skills of driving accuracy, spike irons, and spike putting, there are not many guys in the world right now who have that skill. Like you're looking at like Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley, Aaron Rai, Tommy Fleetwood. Like those types of players who are gaining, maybe Tom Kim to an extent. Like, I feel like that's the type of class that he's in with his current play. Obviously, he's not on their level, but might as well catch him all the time.
Yeah, and look, like, just you got to take some shots in this field. It's that type of event, right? And
yep.
Yeah, I think he spikes well. When I looked at like the really cheap DraftKings, just coming on that very briefly, someone that's played a lot on this golf course and has the right skill set is Fabrizio Zanotti. Whether he can finish inside the top 10 or 20, I don't know, but he's done it twice at this golf course, 9th and 20th. He's been 37th, recently, his last 4 years. I think he did play in the last couple of Olympics, as I mentioned, so 35th and 15th. Feels like he can outscore his price at, I think, 6,200 on DraftKings at least.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, in talking about skill sets and teammates, if sort of depending on how the tee times shake out, a little first-round leader on both of the Finnish kids, Välimäki and Pulkkinen. I feel like while it's not the best course for them, we've seen them do that quite a lot. It's like, oh, Välimäki's 8 under today. All right, sounds good. Yeah, and then I think the only other name down there that I was looking at was David Puig. He's kind of fallen off the last month or so, but he's one of the best players in the world earlier this summer. I still really like his upside. He hits the ball a long way. He is 6,900 on DraftKings, so if you need to go that low to get Scotty Scheffler or Xander or something, I think he makes a lot of sense.
And he was 11th last week, right? Like, he's coming into it in decent form as well.
He's played here before, too, I think, an amateur event a couple of years ago. Aberg was here, Nakajima was here, ADDC was here. So I think Ben Coley put that in his article.
Nice. Good information there. Ryan, any closing thoughts before we sort of summarize our picks?
No, I'm excited for some Olympic-style coffee golf. This is, again, a fun golf course. I'm honestly excited for the ladies' event, too. It's kind of, I wish it wasn't next week. I wish they staggered this like the Scandinavian mixed and pair them together and had them playing the same flags and stuff. I think that would be a very cool element to this. But, excited to see them tackle this next week as well.
Yeah, well, it is strange like that. At some point, I feel like they're going to change the format on this a little bit or make it a team event or something. We can have another whole show probably on talking about what they should and shouldn't do with it. I think it's probably fine at the moment, but it is weird that they are keeping it so separate in the couple of weeks. Did you want to talk through a couple of names there, just for where we won't cover it?
Yeah, I mean, so at the top, I just went with my girls. So Rose, there was a 25 on Rose Zhang, which is that is good. She should be arguably half of that. And then I have a Lynn Grant problem. I think you do too. So those are my two at the top. And then I just bet some long shots. Maya Stark at 80, Nana Cordes Madsen at 100, and Paula Rito at 200. As you can tell, European flavor. I'll take those Solheim Cuppers and see how they can do on this golf course.
And they're playing at the Golf National as well. It's just obviously a week later. Yeah. So looking forward to that. Right, let's summarize our picks. So I will start. I've got Shane Lowry. Sorry, not Shane Lowry. Where have I got that from? I've got John. I don't know why Shane Lowry just came up in my mouth, which is probably a weird sign.
Better go bet him now.
I won't be betting Shane Lowry, so we can skip that one. John Rahm at 11-1. Alexander Noren at 35-1. Carlos Ortiz at 90-1. And Shabunka Sharma at 300-1 for me, Ryan.
Good. Yeah, nice to have some overlap. I got Rahm 12-1, Neiman at 30, Noren at 50, Sepp at 65, Benyon at 80, and Sharma at 400. Again, most of those prices are down a little bit, but as long as you're getting places, I would take them. I think it's definitely a week not to worry about price because it's a small field with a lot of volatility. So,
Ryan, no Americans on your men's Olympic golf card.
There's no good American golfers, Tom. What are you talking about?
No good American golfers, but you now can't cheer on the Americans in the Olympics.
I know. Look, I will be happy if any of them win except for Colin Morikawa. If I miss that one, that will hurt. Wyndham Clark cannot win. Let's be honest here. He's not winning this one. But
which is really funny because I spoke to Matt about this just before. Like, if Wyndham Clark somehow manages to win this event after literally probably every single American has essentially called it a disgrace that he's even on the team. No one really wants him representing the country. He's not in the best of form. Like if he comes back now and wins that, I think, especially on a golf course, it really doesn't suit him. I think it would be an incredible achievement. Do you get kind of, are you into the Olympics outside of just golf? Are you massively team?
No. I mean, I will watch. Like I'm doing my best. I'm trying to watch the basketball games for sure, just because a lot of those guys are done soon. I'll watch swimming when it's on, but no, I'm not gung ho. I don't even get into the soccer the way people do. So now basketball and maybe some swimming for me.
We didn't even enter a soccer team this year, so that's how much we thought of it. So there we go.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Ryan. Thank you very much as ever for stepping in for Sky in his absence. I'm sure his gallivanting is over, I think, the tail end of this week, and then
soon,
at some point soon. So I'm sure we can pass on that he was going to bet Guido Migliozzi at the Olympics. If he
definitely has, yes.
Then he would be lying. So Ryan, thank you as ever, and good luck this week.